So let's talk about Cupid, Eros, Aphrodite, Ishtar, Inanna, Venus, matchmaking, fraternity, social engineering, social planning, the builders, building bodies, eugenics, the self-direction of humanity through dating. Basically, a long time ago when I was younger, people say, I'm going to hook you up. It was kind of friendly. There wasn't such a New World Order energy in the air. And over time, they decided there's a more thoroughly integrated system, okay, according to Rockefeller's words and his memoirs and so on. And we see this coming true. It really doesn't matter if you said it or not. And we see that this is the protocol. Pro to call. And who's perceived as the pro? It goes back to Airy, right? Ear, eye. Who do you listen to? Who do you listen to? So of course they're listening to the corporate partners, right? It has been called the golden age by these new age kind of guys. And I'm sure you've heard of the golden rule. And I'm not talking about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But they live by he who has the gold makes the rules. And it's the corporate partners. It's the old money. These guys are playing matchmaker. They have a bunch of fraternities and kind of ranking women, saying how much is she worth, kind of like a pimp and a prostitute. How much, how does she rate? How big tits does she have? Kind of various scales, what type, and they have a bunch of guys kind of talk about the types that they like and the different appeal that they have, and so on and so forth. Some are exotic, some seem more classy, some seem more natural. We can go on and on about the variations. Okay. So it reminds me of one example is the eugenic narrative is so strong that you can find a gold digger at a Hollywood bar. She's basically progressive, a eugenicist. And a black African guy can come as a millionaire and he'll get rejected by her and she'll wait for the next rich guy, because part of the culture is not just being a gold digger, but supporting the eugenic narrative to support the psychological construct, which in turn makes it so that people are more likely to listen to certain types of people. It's kind of subconscious mental programming, how your subconscious mind rules your behavior, and who controls your subconscious mind. The people who deal in propaganda, marketing, and so on and so forth. I talk about in my other video how they're breeding dogs and cats and horses for generations, cultivating wine and crops, and go on and on. Eugenic activity, social Darwinism, scientific racism, biodemography, biology and demographics. And there's an abundance of evidence that proves me right. Mind, body, and soul, Da Vinci, and so on and so forth. Okay. So this leads me to various kind of arguments between me and the core of the corporate elite. Okay, the first one is focused moral intensity, the spirit of righteousness and truth, versus playing stupid about all cultures that are allowed, being inferior and evil, and full of survivalist earth energy. Now, obviously, it's just like the Bible. Okay, I'm a Christian in the core of it. It's a predominantly Christian culture. People who grew up Christian probably shouldn't be mad at me, but whatever. It is what it is. The idea, it goes back to 1 John, this quote I quote all the time. I don't want to spray this thing. It's a long story. I can't touch it too much. Okay, basically, there's this quote in 1 John that says, "Don't love the world." If I remember, I'll put it at the end of this video. Okay. Anyway, I wrote it somewhere else. Okay. It basically says, don't love the world. And the cultures are of the world. Okay. So, again, focus moral intensity, the spirit of righteousness and truth, versus playing stupid about all cultures that are allowed, being inferior and evil and full of survivalist earth energy, and part of the corporate partnership, corporate alliance kind of integrated system that's allowed. These cultures are allowed. They've sliced the pie, and there's, as they say, not enough attractive females to go around, and there's also the contrast to create and the eugenic narrative to support. Okay. Number two, it's the difference between being serious and being gay. And I'm not necessarily talking about homosexuality, but yes, it's a part. It is the idea that you're going through life kind of joking. Okay, someone is talking about something very serious, like, oh yeah, you're being sarcastic, you're joking. This is part of how they uphold the psychological construct, is they don't allow people like me to receive an audience of people that are serious and are focused and dedicated and determined and driven and ambitious about doing the right thing. They only work within the kind of Western neo-colonialist psychological construct, which is Luciferian, goes back to the foundation. It is the shun. They do not want the African martial art hero placed above the corporate guy. They want to get more bang for his buck, and that has to do with gang banging women and banging women in general, okay? And little boys and everything else they do. So number three, it is the African human kind of truth Okay, so African human truth of who we are versus a Eurocentric narrative in regards to who we are, and that whether that is the Jew or not is really of no consequence in a sense, because it is really how it is. This thing's coming from Europe, whether it's 80% Jew, 10% Jew, it's coming from there somewhere. They're rich guys, they're corporate guys, they've intermarried to some degree, and so on and so forth. Number 4, the man versus the little conformist girl. A little conformist girl might have a lot of money in the bank. She might be a Rockefeller, a Rothschild. She might have a trust account or some savings account in her name that has $10 million, has $1 billion in it. Okay, does that mean that she is more of a man than the martial art hero who's sabotaged, who's poor, who lives with his parents? No. So if you can't extract that from this, if you can't avoid that argument, you lose the argument. What it really means to be a man is standing on your own 10 toes for the highest principles of righteousness and morality, the principles of good, the moral truths. Okay? It's not how much money you make, especially in a society where people historically are blacklisted and set up and sabotaged and group harassed. You have the Klan, which involves a degree of law enforcement and the judicial mistreatment and so on and so forth, institutional injustice and racism and so on and so forth, redlining, okay, and all kinds of unfair behavior, gentrification that took place to make sure that the black man can't network and get on his feet. It is said that the Ku Klux Klan was started to keep blacks out of the higher levels of masonry. And I think there's a lot of truth to this, because ultimately there's some Masonic lodges, as the narrative go, that don't allow black people into their lodge. Okay. Obviously, these are the social planners. They don't allow black people in their lodge. You think they're getting treated fairly in the society where most of these Masons, a lot of the presidents were Masons? Of course they're not. Of course they're not. It's fucking stupid to think that they are. Number 4. So I went over that, man versus the little conformist girl. Number 5. A society allowing a degree of people who can walk in the light of the African martial art true hero order versus everyone being bred to be evil and playing stupid while trapping people that don't want to go along with eugenics. So there's some people that naturally like it. They don't want to be a part of this. And they don't want to go with any culture that's allowed, because it's like mental health has agents, right? For example, it's a good way to describe it because there's a large degree of this. They have sort of agents and family members in various cultures upholding the culture and the social norms, and to help them with their mental health kind of propaganda, kind of the hidden philosophies and mental health direction of society. Okay, so these guys kind of detect it. They don't like being ruled by people in a way that's unfair. And when they go from culture to culture, they see these pecking orders. They see they're being treated unfairly. People that remind them of that kind of shallow mental health, kind of social control, and they want to isolate themselves. They want to escape that. Right? When people want to escape the city, they don't want to go to a different culture in the city. They want to leave that. They don't like any culture of the world. They want to go on vacation. They want to leave that mess. Okay? They want to go back to nature. They want to rejoin. That's what religion is. To destroy religion is to destroy the idea of actually going on a vacation and actually having a meaningful experience. It's actually doing martial arts and religion, having meaning in life, right? Because it means to rejoin that which gives you natural happiness, natural meaning, supernatural happiness, a morally sound route to achieve this natural kind of fulfillment. Okay? So this is part of the disagreement as well. Okay? They don't want to allow for even a degree of this. They're screening this guy out. There's no way for them to then make it right. It's like if the South Africans had killed all the Zulus and they decided that they want to be Zulus, right? They want to represent the African martial art order in terms of the South African guys, not the one true martial art order, the Igbo order. This is basically ends with me in this world and continues in heaven. But they want to be Zulus in that particular. Are they magically Zulus? They killed them off? No. Can they ever make it up to them? They killed them off. No. It's the same thing with the alpha line of this world. Okay, they can never make it up to it because they didn't allow me to raise a son. There's no one to make it up to. That's like saying, I'm going to make it up to you by giving your neighbor $1 million if I took $1 million from you. That's fucking stupid. How the fuck's that making up to me? Or you're going to give my neighbor's son $1 million. That's not me. That's not my family. It's mine, not theirs. Fuck you talking about? Okay, and for the same, it's a no-brainer. There's no way to repent. Right? And then there's another scripture where he says he washes his hands and he's innocent. Okay? He's washed his hands. He's done what it takes to repent. And this is in reality. There's a scientific direction of calculated. No matter how you interpret the Bible, you'll be hard-pressed to find anybody who can truly justify a calculated attack on this guy that includes pretty much every Christian church in America, every kind of every network, every flavor, right? Baptists, Jehovah's Witness, every category, every faction, every sect, right? Sect and sex, right? In order to control the sex. And incidentally, that's part of how these things work. The Christian churches, you know, you give a lot of money, you tithe 10% of your money, and you pray to God, and you tell the preacher your problems, and magically you get a girlfriend. Magically you're married, and you can provide for them. And it goes back to that little girl conformist argument as a provider instead of a man. And this guy, you know, someone like me, he's a top martial artist. He's God's true representative. You're not going to help him do anything because your God is the God of this world. Okay. Number 6, the divine order versus the fraternal order. In society, we have a fraternal order. Okay. There's the fraternal order of Masons. There's police fraternal orders. There's Skull and Bones. There's Berzelius. There's Michigan, University of Michigan, I believe, has secret society, and on and on and on and on. Okay, there's the Golden Dawn, Hermetic orders. There's a bunch of fraternal orders, Alpha, Meta, Theta, all these weirdos in all these different colleges. San Jose State has, and so on and so forth. Okay. And these guys come together to socially plan and to control women, and they love the rape. And incidentally, those are also E words: Mickey and Roofie, ending with E. Evil, effeminate, Ray versus Ra, and so on and so forth. Okay. So it's the African martial art order versus the fraternal order, and sports, right? Sports. A lot of these fraternities, these guys play college sports, polo, you know, water polo, you know, football, rugby, you know, you name it, you know, badminton. Okay, these are sports guys. These are like weird fraternity sports guys that people don't take shots at it anywhere near enough, and that's very telling. And then they're nerds, they're scientists, and they're geeks, and they go to the gym, and they have a kind of, you know, Yale University gym body, and this is kind of like the yuppie model for Palo Alto, you know, the Hamptons, and so on and so forth. Okay, you know. So number 7, God's natural direction versus the God's natural direction versus the unfair and unnatural colonial manipulation direction. And you should, I think it's self-explanatory, right? This is the continuity of colonialism, and the females are not, you know, they're supposed to be free, but they're satanically liberated. They're saying, hey, if you take on a satanic philosophy, we'll give you a certain liberty. If not, we're going to harass you. That's what they're saying. Okay. Number 8, finding God with the victims versus pretending to be good with the indifferent and or the oppressor. Okay. Now this one's pretty much self-explanatory. So I got a little time. Let me kind of go. So remember, when you look at Horus versus Set, America's said to be the New Egypt. Well, who do they represent? Whose perspective? Is it Num? Do they represent Happy of the Nile, Atum? They represent pretty much all the deities in rebellion in every pagan culture that you still see these deities express, you know, that have some expression in society still. They're kind of understood and compatible with the Western kind of Zeus, Serapis agenda. So who was Set? The principle of evil. He was the foundation of Western culture, chaos and anarchy, force, necessity, compulsion, inevitability. It's a bunch of crazed European guys, barbarians, with this crazed look in their eyes saying, it's inevitable that we're going to have our way with women. It's inevitable that we're going to kill people. There's this force of nature in these people who aren't martial artists, right? They didn't come up with Kung Fu. They didn't come up with Horus martial arts. They were like barbarians with clubs and brute force, big brutes, with all due respect. I'm part white, Anyway, so again, Set is associated with brute force, not with surgical strikes. Hold on a second. Yeah?
Your dad just called, and he said that he got caught up again. So, he's not going to make it home.
All right.
You want to go to town and pick something up?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
All right, as you see, like every video, those of you paying attention, like I get interrupted. Okay? It's not a coincidence. Like all day, and like fucking the only time they ever call out for me is when I'm making a fucking video. Okay? All right, anyway, so he's the deity of the desert, of foreigners, basically foreign invaders. You know, if you really read between lines. He's said to have red hair and red skin. And what happens when a white person, you have the Libyans, the Indo-Europeans, you know, so they're in the desert, the sun hits their skin, they turn pink, they turn red. That's what they're referring to, okay? You know, that's what Set is, and that's a way of highlighting that they're not the people of the sun. And this is significant because Ra is the king of the gods, and this is part of what's going on. It's a mistake not to highlight this. This is part of why black people are hanged. You know, the passing of the great race. They think that they killed these guys unnaturally in an unnatural scientific conspiracy, that magically in their sex cult tradition they've manifested their destiny, and that they somehow deserve these attractive women that they've turned into satanic people with a cultural price tag who are controlled in a eugenic manner.